Before Barnaby, Leo's world was mostly the color gray. Leo was 12, an age where you were too big for little kid games, but too small to feel important in the real world. He was the kind of boy who noticed things other people walked past: broken bird shells, interesting rocks, the way the pavement smelled right before it rained. He was quiet, and quiet kids often feel invisible. It was a Tuesday, raining hard, when the gray world cracked open. Leo was taking the shortcut home behind the old abandoned textile mill. It was a place of rusted fences and overgrown weeds. He heard it over the sound of the rain hitting his umbrella, a sound halfway between a cough and a cry. He stopped. He peered behind a stack of waterlogged wooden pallets. There, shivering so hard its teeth were clicking, was a heap of matted, muddy fur. It was skinny, its ribs showing like the rungs of a tiny ladder. It was so dirty you couldn't tell what color it was supposed to be. Leo's heart, usually quiet and tucked away, gave a painful thump. He slowly lowered his umbrella, oblivious to the cold rain soaking his own jacket. He knelt down in the mud. "Hey," Leo whispered. "It's okay." The creature flinched. It lifted its head and Leo saw two eyes, the color of warm honey, staring back with terrifying vulnerability. There was no aggression in those eyes, only an exhausting expectation of disappointment. Leo didn't have much, but in his pocket, he had half a turkey sandwich meant for lunch. He unwrapped it slowly, breaking off a small piece of meat. He held it out, flat on his palm. The dog froze. It sniffed the air, desperation warring with fear. Then, agonizingly slowly, it creeped forward on its belly. The wet nose touched Leo's skin, cold as ice. It took the turkey gently, without teeth, and swallowed it whole. Leo offered the rest. The dog ate it, then looked up at Leo, let out a long, shuddering sigh, and laid its heavy, muddy head right onto Leo's sneaker. In that second, the rain didn't feel so cold anymore. Leo knew he wasn't going home alone. Getting him home was the easy part. Convincing his mom took longer, but one look at the shivering bundle in Leo's arms broke her resolve. They named him Barnaby. The first bath was an archaeological dig. Underneath layers of alley mud and grease wasn't a gray street dog, but a golden retriever mix, with fur the color of spun copper and a tail that looked like a feathery question mark. The change in Leo was slower, but just as profound. Before Barnaby, Leo would come home, go to his room, and read until dinner. Now, coming home was an event. The second Leo's key hit the lock, he'd hear the thump, thump, thump of a tail hitting the hallway wall. Barnaby was a shadow with heartbeat. If Leo was doing homework, Barnaby was under the desk, his chin resting on Leo's foot. If Leo was sad, Barnaby knew it before Leo did. He would nudge Leo's elbow with a wet nose, staring at him with those honey eyes that seemed to say, "I don't know words, but I know pain. Give it to me." Leo started talking more. First just to Barnaby, telling him about the bully in math class or the weird dream he had. Barnaby never interrupted, never offered advice, just listened with his whole body. Leo felt anchored. He wasn't floating away anymore. And Barnaby, the dog who used to flinch at falling leaves, began to walk with his head high, strutting like he owned the sidewalk. They had saved each other. A year later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, they went hiking up Miller's Ridge. It was their favorite spot, miles away from the noise of the town. They were chasing the sunset, trying to get to the lookout point before dark. The air was sharp and cool. Barnaby was ranging ahead, chasing squirrels up oaks, a blur of golden energy. The weather turned fast. What started as a light mist thickened into a freezing downpour. The dirt path turned to slick clay. "Barnaby, heel!" Leo called out, turning back towards the trailhead. Barnaby spun around immediately, trotting back to Leo's side. As they hurried down a steep section, the ground gave way under Leo's boot. He didn't even have time to cry out. He slid 20 feet down a rocky embankment, landing hard in a dry creek bed. A sharp crack echoed through the ravine as his leg hit a boulder. The pain was blinding. White-hot agony shot up his shin. "Barnaby!" Leo gasped, the wind knocked out of him. His cell phone had smashed in his pocket during the fall. It was getting dark fast. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and the rain was turning to sleet. Leo was soaked, hurt, and miles from the car. Shivering violently, shock began to set in. Barnaby seemed to understand the shift. He stopped whining. He laid down on top of Leo, covering Leo's chest and neck with his thick, warm fur, acting as a living blanket against the freezing rain. An hour passed. Leo's consciousness was fading in and out. He felt incredibly sleepy, a dangerous sign of hypothermia. "Barnaby," Leo slurred, burying his face in the dog's wet fur. You have to go. Go home. Get help." Barnaby didn't move. He just pressed harder against the boy. His loyalty was stronger than his obedience. He wasn't leaving. Another hour later, through the haze of pain and cold, Leo heard sounds. Voices, far away on the upper trail. "Help!" Leo tried to scream, but it came out as a pathetic croak. The wind snatched the sound away. The voices were moving on. They were going to miss them. Leo felt a shift. Barnaby stood up on Leo's chest. The dog stared up at the ridge, where the flashlights were cutting through the trees. Barnaby let out a bark. This bark came from the deepest part of his chest. It was guttural, desperate, and deeper than anything Leo had ever heard. It was a roar of protective fury and panic. "Roof, roof, roof!" The lights on the ridge stopped moving. Barnaby scrambled halfway up the embankment, slipping in the mud, barking continuously, looking back at Leo, then up at the lights, directing them. "Hey, hold up! I hear a dog down there!" a yell shouted. 10 minutes later, beams of light hit Leo's face. A rescue team strapped Leo to a stretcher. The whole way down the mountain, as 4 men carried Leo over rough terrain, Barnaby refused to walk ahead. He walked right beside the stretcher, his nose touching Leo's limp hand, hanging off the side, making sure the boy he found behind the pallets was still there. Later that night, Leo was on the sofa, his leg in a splint, wrapped in 3 blankets. The fireplace was crackling. Barnaby was asleep on the rug. He was twitching, whimpering in his sleep, chasing dream monsters away from his boy. Leo reached down and buried his hand in the thick copper fur of Barnaby's neck. He thought about that first day in the alley, the shivering gray heap. He thought he was rescuing a dog that day. He realized now, as he listened to the steady rhythm of Barnaby's breathing, that dogs don't just occupy the space in your house. They occupy the empty spaces in your heart, the ones you didn't even know needed filling until they arrived. And once they are there, they will guard that space with their lives. Leo closed his eyes, finally warm. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was Barnaby's person, and that was the most important thing in the world.
Every dog has a story, and every story deserves a home. If Barnaby's loyalty touched your heart, please give this video a like. It helps us share the power of friendship with the world. And if you want to hear more stories that prove love has no boundaries, hit that subscribe button and join our pack. We have many more tales to tell. Tell us in the comments. Do you have an animal friend who saved you right back? We'd love to read your story. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best friends are the ones we never expected to find.